Right, I can hear the clinking of beer bottles, so I know I'm your one barrier, and I've got the graveyard shift, so I'll try and speed this through for you. I'll give you a bit of background. So we delivered Wellington's first 5-star built-rated building, but we've just delivered Wellington's first 6-star built-rated building. And in this room is some of the design team. Patrick Arnold's here, Donovan Wick, who was our project lead for Argosy, and we had Becca in there as well. So what I've done is, because some people haven't seen the building, we actually did a site tour with Keystone Trust, because we're really getting into encouraging our youth to come on the sustainability journey. So we took a video of that, and I'm going to play that first, and then I'll start the prezzo. So we'll see how we go. Okay. One of the things about this project is, I can say now, I've been to Chris's project in Brisbane, and that is amazing. And in person, it's amazing. I feel like we've just built a batch now in comparison to that. But typical Kiwi way, we get a bit of number 8, we twist it, we turn it, and we can develop some pretty cool things. One thing about this project is we've used existing technologies, but it's our application that made this project different. And what I'll do is I'll just run through, this is how we're going to do it today. I've sort of been a bit more organised than in the past. So, where did we start? Kaikoura earthquake, great event, a good way to test your seismic resilience in Wellington. So, Stuart Dawson Corner is a heritage listed building. It was yellow stickered by Wellington City Council. It's also one of our buildings, it was actually the least damaged building in our whole portfolio, ironically. But yellow stickered, and then what that made us do is do a test on 8 Willis Street, and that came out around the 40%. So that made us really rethink what we have to do with these two sites that are adjacent to each other in the heart of Wellington CBD, on the Golden Mile, and with a high pedestrian count in that area, we were conscious of health and safety as well. So during our due diligence, one of the things we found out about that building was that we had some landlocked areas in the back of the building. So we thought if we demolish them, we can realise all that extra land area. The other thing was that the rear part of Stuart Dawson Corner was not heritage. It was actually new and installed in the 1990s. The lobby was not heritage. So we only had a facade and only about probably 8 metres back. But we did have a 100-year-old roof with trusses and that. So we worked with Heritage, Historic Places Trust and Wellington City Council, and we managed to get a Category A building demolished on the condition we kept the facade. And I'll go into that in a bit more detail. But one of the things we were able to do was unlock all the intrinsic value of that site for us on that. And what we did was, to help us through that process, because it's a lot of unknown, we did an ECI arrangement with McKee Fell. And they were our development partner in this. They were a design-build contractor. They were also the same design-build contractor we used on Stout Street, being the MB building, about 7 years ago. And we had a really good working relationship. The design team was pretty much similar, very similar, and so we boxed on. So we made the decision early that we wanted to reuse that Willis Street. It was built back in the trust investment days. It was a typical financial institution, 7-storey, I call it a ship brick house, brutalist type architecture. It had a couple of shear walls on it, and it had some issues with its floor plates, the seatings, etc. But the structure itself was actually pretty good. So decision was made to reuse that, demolish Stuart Dawson Corner, keep the facade. And one of the things we did in the ECI, Maurice Clark worked out that rather than propping up the facade of the building, he decided he had some spare crane towers. So we used those and put them in place. And that way we weren't building a structure and then just getting rid of it again. We got to reuse the crown towers again, or they did anyway. With that, we got a design team together, and it was quite good because everyone had different views, but you had decades of experience. And when you're doing an existing building retrofit and you're doing Green Star, experience amounts for a lot. We also had a tenant on board under an ATL, so we had the Department of Statistics, and as we know, Kaikoura, their building got demolished, and they became nomads and were farmed out to different agencies around Wellington CBD, and working from home was one of their new things to do as well. The other thing we did was we had a safety design committee, and they also looked at the Green Star as well, and that was run on a monthly basis to reassess everything we did in the project to make sure we could maintain it, build it, and also manage it. And being an investment company, we take a long-term approach, so you've got to look at all those avenues. So why did we do it like this? Well, we did it because it's a low carbon solution. It was lower risk because we could reuse the foundations for 8 Willis Street. There was just some slight pad enlargements we did on the shear wall. It worked in our strategic plan that we have as Argosy, which was to have 50% of our portfolio green rated by 2030. This was another feather to the bow. And also, we're all about minimising our impact on the environment, and this was a prime bit of real estate. And we really didn't want to demolish it and rebuild a new building. We used the Green Star framework. We targeted neighbours as well, and that also gave the tenant peace of mind that they had a process at the end that they could verify against, which is really important. And it also formed part of our green finance. We were New Zealand's first NZX green bond in bricks and mortar, so the project had to fit the requirements of our green bond framework as well. And the other part about it was, we've always said green buildings are more resilient, and that's because we design for rainfall under climate adaptation and as well as temperature. So with the upcoming TCFD release, XRB, Green Star just fills into that process. So it ticks a lot more boxes for us, and again, it's about that verification. So I'm only going to hit a couple of green features because I know you're going to want to drink soon. But for the engineers, we did the embodied carbon LCA model. So Patrick Arnold's here. He drove that process with Ewan. So the total building is only 30% lower, and that's because we reused 8 Willis Street.